Have you ever felt it? That deep, persistent ache in the very core of your being. A subtle hum of discontent even when, on the surface, life seems to tick all the boxes. It's a sensation that something profound is missing. A fundamental misalignment that no amount of external validation or distraction can truly soothe. You might have sought answers in mindfulness apps, absorbed the well-meaning counsel of friends, or even mastered the art of presenting a facade of contentment. Yet, beneath it all, that quiet throb of suffering persists, an unwelcome companion on your journey. I want to share a perspective that might feel stark, perhaps even unsettling, because it challenges the narratives we often tell ourselves. The vast majority of this inner turmoil doesn't erupt from the circumstances around you. Your career, your relationships, your financial state. It germinates within, in the unexplored territories of your own mind, in the aspects of yourself you've inadvertently, or perhaps intentionally, turned away from. The renowned psychoanalyst Carl Jung spoke of a profound truth. That which we do not consciously embrace and understand within ourselves doesn't simply vanish. It often reappears in our lives as experiences we perceive as external fate, as unavoidable patterns. And this, in essence, is the dynamic playing out. Life, in its myriad forms, is constantly attempting to communicate with you, to guide you towards a deeper understanding. But in the noise of daily existence, amidst the rush to achieve and conform, these subtle, and sometimes not so subtle messages go unheard. We become adept at sidestepping the discomfort, at masking our vulnerabilities with frenetic activity, fleeting pleasures, or connections that lack true depth. We reassure ourselves that this too shall pass. But does it really? The discomfort lingers because its purpose isn't to be silenced, but to be comprehended. This isn't about offering you quick fixes or superficial affirmations. My intention here is to spark a genuine inquiry, to encourage you to confront the parts of your inner world you've kept shrouded, even from your own conscious gaze. Grant me a little of your undivided attention, and let's explore the roots of this persistent suffering and how, not through superficial adjustments, but through profound awareness, it can genuinely begin to resolve. Perhaps you find yourself in a dark night of the soul, feeling the crushing weight of despair. Or maybe you're teetering on the edge, projecting an image of composure while an internal storm rages. It's also possible you've become so accustomed to this undercurrent of pain that it feels like an inseparable part of your identity. Regardless of your specific situation, there's a challenging truth to acknowledge. This kind of suffering endures primarily because the courage to investigate its deepest origins has been deferred. Jung dedicated his life to charting this intricate inner landscape, the human psyche. He understood that genuine illumination is found not by shying away from our inner darkness, but by courageously venturing into it. So, if you're prepared to embark on this exploration with me, I can assure you of one thing. The understanding you gain has the potential to fundamentally alter how you perceive yourself, your pain, and the very nature of your freedom. Let us begin this journey inward. You might be convinced that your struggles are a direct consequence of external pressures, demanding colleagues, unfulfilling partnerships, financial anxieties, the relentless weight of societal expectations. And undeniably, these factors exert a significant influence. But the critical insight, the one that can shift everything, is that the most profound suffering, the kind that gnaws at you in the quiet moments, that seems to immobilize your spirit, arises from a disconnection from your authentic essence. Carl Jung articulated that one of the greatest spiritual calamities is to live an existence that isn't truly your own. And for many, this becomes an unconscious reality. From our earliest days, we learn to seek approval, to fit societal molds, to adhere to prescribed norms. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, we begin to drift from our innate inclinations. We construct a persona, a carefully curated version of ourselves, designed to gain acceptance and avoid disapproval. We learn to muffle our true desires, to suppress inconvenient emotions, to swallow our frustrations, and to numb our sorrows. The consequence is a pervasive, often nameless pain. A pain that doesn't always scream, but steadily erodes our vitality from within. This is the suffering born of self-alienation, the anguish of looking into your own reflection and seeing a stranger. You've grown accustomed to the role you've adopted, but your deeper self, your soul, feels the dissonance. It registers when it's living a counterfeit life, and it signals its distress through anxiety, through sleepless nights, through a pervasive sense of apathy, through inexplicable guilt. Emotional pain is the soul's urgent alert, indicating a profound self-betrayal. Consider this. It's not failure itself that wounds so deeply, but the chasm between who you genuinely are and the idealized, often unrealistic image you've constructed of who you should be. It's not the solitude that cuts, but the stark emptiness of not recognizing or valuing your own company when you are alone. It's rarely others who inflict the deepest wounds. It is you, each time you abandon your own truth to maintain a facade. As long as this fundamental disconnect persists, the suffering will inevitably continue, because you're attempting to treat symptoms on the surface while the root cause remains untouched within you. Yet, here lies the pivotal understanding. This pain, however intense, is a crucial indicator, not a life sentence. Jung posited that suffering is often the first, indispensable step towards genuine transformation. Pain exists to nudge you, to compel you, back towards your authentic self, towards your inner home. This return journey commences the moment you cease fleeing and begin to truly listen. Listening to what has been buried, what has been silenced, what has been long forgotten within the depths of your being. In the exploration that follows, we will delve into one of the most formidable and concurrently most liberating forces within the human psyche, the aspect you may instinctively fear the most, yet which holds the very key to your healing. Jung referred to it as the shadow. If you genuinely desire an end to your suffering, it is essential to understand and courageously confront this hidden part of yourself. You yearn for relief from suffering, yet you find yourself repeatedly battling its symptoms, the anxiety, the guilt, the anger, the sadness, treating them as adversaries, as personal failings to be eradicated. But what if the true impediment to your peace isn't these outward manifestations? What if it resides within you, operating silently, veiled from your conscious awareness? This is where the real challenge lies. Carl Jung identified this concealed aspect of our personality as the shadow. And, make no mistake, every individual, yourself included, possesses one. The shadow comprises all that you have repressed, hidden, or denied within yourself. It is the repository of your socially unacceptable desires, your forbidden emotions, your unexpressed rage, your unacknowledged sexuality, your ambition that masquerades as humility, your deepest fears that you pretend do not exist. The shadow is woven from the parts of yourself you felt unable or unwilling to embody, yet they remain alive and active in the recesses of your psyche. The more you ignore it, the more potent its influence becomes over your life. Reflect on those moments when you've reacted with an intensity that seemed disproportionate to the situation, or when you've inexplicably sabotaged a promising opportunity, or impulsively ended a relationship that was, by all accounts, healthy and supportive. That is often the shadow at work. It subtly infiltrates your thoughts, manipulates your emotional responses, and shapes your decisions, all without your conscious consent. Jung famously stated, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Do you attribute your ongoing struggles to misfortune, to some cosmic imbalance, or to the injustices of the world? It's highly possible that it is, in large part, your unacknowledged shadow pulling the strings. And it will continue to do so until you turn and face it directly. The inherent difficulty is that confronting the shadow demands immense courage. It requires you to acknowledge aspects of yourself that you'd rather disown. It means looking unflinchingly into the mirror of your soul and seeing what you've painstakingly tried to conceal. It necessitates abandoning the comfort of a victim narrative and accepting that there are, indeed, less savory, perhaps even destructive elements within you. Elements that are, nonetheless, fundamentally human, fundamentally you. But here is the crucial insight. The shadow, in its essence, is not your enemy. It is the exiled part of your soul, and like any banished aspect of self, its deepest longing is to be seen, to be heard, and ultimately, to be reintegrated. Jung did not advocate for the eradication of the shadow. Rather, he emphasized the transformative power of embracing it, of transmuting its raw energy into awareness, strength, and wisdom. For what you persistently reject within yourself will continue to weaken you, while that which you courageously integrate will ultimately liberate you. In the next stage of our reflection, you will discover how to engage with this shadow now that its presence is acknowledged. We will discuss the path of courage, the genesis of genuine healing, and the initial steps toward reclaiming the fragmented pieces of your soul. Because recognizing the shadow is merely the beginning, what you choose to do with this awareness is what truly catalyzes change. You have journeyed this far, confronting the uncomfortable reality of your internal disconnection and perhaps catching a glimpse of your own shadow. Now arrives the most pivotal juncture, the engagement, the confrontation. It is not sufficient merely to understand the mechanics behind your suffering. Understanding is the gateway, but true healing demands action. Courageous, raw, and often uncomfortable action. For now, you are called to do something that most people spend their lives avoiding, to traverse your inner landscape, your internal hell, with your eyes wide open. Carl Jung was unequivocal that the pilgrimage to the authentic self wins through a territory that few dare to tread. This courage isn't the absence of fear, it is the commitment to move forward even when fear is present. To consciously face the unconscious is to venture into an uncharted realm where your usual sense of control is relinquished. It means letting go of the carefully constructed masks, abandoning the role of the victim, and accepting the uncomfortable truth that a part of you actively contributes to your own suffering. This demands a radical, almost brutal honesty with yourself. It requires you to stop perpetuating self-deception. But what does it mean, in practical terms, to confront the unconscious? It means beginning to listen, truly listen, to what your body is screaming when your mind insists on ignoring its signals. That knot in your stomach when you're in the presence of someone who undermines you. That tightness in your chest that arises when you acquiesce to yet another situation that diminishes your spirit. That inexplicable wave of fatigue that washes over you every time you force a smile that doesn't reach your eyes. All these are manifestations of the unconscious attempting to guide you, to save you, not to destroy you. You can begin with seemingly small yet powerful actions. Keep a journal of your dreams, for they are often direct communiques from the unconscious. Observe your emotional triggers with curiosity rather than judgment. What situations or people consistently evoke strong reactions in you? Reflect on recurring patterns in your life, the themes that have replayed themselves for years. Every time something throws you off balance, every time you feel disproportionately reactive, there is a hidden message, a breadcrumb leading you deeper. The unconscious speaks in symbols, in metaphors, in sensations. And your task now is to learn its language, not with haste or self-criticism, but with patient presence, with a genuine willingness to hear yourself, not merely to comfort, but to confront. One of the most potent practices for this is deep, uncensored writing. Set aside time regularly. Sit with a pen and paper or a blank screen, and write as if you are confessing your most guarded secrets to the most understanding confidant imaginable, yourself. Write about the feelings you're ashamed to feel, the thoughts you're afraid to admit, the words you've never dared to speak aloud. Because when these shadowed elements are brought from the prison of silence into the light of conscious expression, they begin to lose their destructive power over you. Another invaluable tool is the therapeutic mirror. Whether that takes the form of working with a qualified psychologist, a therapist, or a trusted guide skilled in helping you interpret the signals your psyche is sending. Jung reminded us that the unconscious is not a mere dumping ground for unwanted experiences, but a living, breathing intelligence. It wants to show you something vital. It yearns to facilitate your healing, but it demands that you listen without the usual filters, without your well-practiced defenses, without resorting to convenient excuses. Do you genuinely wish to alleviate your suffering? Then you must cease running from yourself. As long as you flee, your suffering will relentlessly pursue you. But when you pause, turn, and look it squarely in the face, it begins to transform. It starts to morph. And in that process, you discover something profound that perhaps no one has ever told you. The very pain you so desperately fear is, in fact, a portal. And that is precisely what we will explore next. What is the true, often misunderstood, role of pain in your life? Why does it insist on making its presence known, even when everything seems to be superficially under control? And most importantly, how can this very pain become your most potent ally on the path towards genuine liberation? Are you prepared to find out? Then continue this journey with me. The The majority of individuals spend their lives engaged in an ongoing battle to eliminate pain. They seek solace in medication, immerse themselves in endless distractions, engage in superficial relationships, chase fleeting pleasures, and accumulate external achievements and curated social media portrayals, all in a valiant effort to avoid feeling discomfort. But here lies a truth that often goes unacknowledged. As long as you dedicate your energy to eradicating pain, it will persist in its pursuit of you. This is because pain is not present in your life to be merely eliminated. It is here to be heard, to be understood. Carl Jung perceives suffering not as a flaw in the fabric of life, but as a profound summons to transformation. Pain is the psyche's alarm system, signaling that something within you is fractured, that some aspect of your being needs to be seen, attended to, and realigned with your core truth. It is the soul's desperate cry, asserting that the current way of being is no longer sustainable. Every ache, every pang of anguish carries a hidden message, a complex code awaiting decipherment. You simply need to shift your perspective, to stop treating pain as an adversary and begin to regard it as an unerring guide. Reflect upon the significant turning points in your life, the moments that compelled you to change course. How many of those transformations occurred in a state of comfort and ease? Likely, very few, if any. It is often within the crucible of chaos that the soul begins to reorganize itself. It is in the throes of pain that the psyche urgently pleads for reconstruction. And it is precisely there, in that challenging space, that true, lasting transformation begins. Jung believed that suffering must be experienced with awareness, navigated through to its depths, and only then can it be truly overcome, not by suppression, but by understanding. In other words, pain needs to be traversed, not circumvented. Let's translate this into tangible reality. Imagine an individual who spends their life consistently negating their own needs and desires to please others, always available, perpetually smiling, invariably saying yes, even when their inner voice screams no. Gradually, this person begins to experience escalating anxiety, profound fatigue, and a pervasive, unexplained sadness. They might consult doctors, undergo tests, and perhaps even start taking anxiolytics, yet nothing fully resolves the underlying malaise. This is because their body is articulating what their conscious mind refuses to accept. Living in denial of one's own truth is inherently painful, and it will continue to inflict suffering until they cease the self-betrayal. Consider another common example. Someone who finds themselves repeatedly entangled in the same painful relational patterns. They may consistently attract emotionally unavailable partners, experience recurrent feelings of rejection, and always end up feeling inadequate or unworthy of love. This recurring pain is not simply a string of bad luck. It is a mirror. It is life persistently reflecting that there is an old wound, perhaps originating in childhood, that is crying out for healing. And as long as that core wound remains unaddressed, the suffering will continue to serve as a persistent, painful reminder. When you begin to perceive pain as a symbolic language, a profound shift occurs. What once seemed like arbitrary punishment gradually reveals itself as an inner compass. Pain starts to illuminate the path forward, and as paradoxical as it may sound, you come to realize that suffering, when listened to with attentiveness, humility, and genuine curiosity, can become the most powerful catalyst for healing. It forces you to pause, to look inward, to reevaluate, and to change. This is where personal responsibility comes into sharp focus, because now you know, to ignore your pain is to ignore yourself. To run from your pain is to abandon yourself. But if you can summon the courage to listen to it, with presence, without immediate judgment, and with a spirit of inquiry, it will guide you to a place of inner alignment and peace you may not currently believe is possible. This peace arises not because the external world has become perfect, but because you are finally, authentically becoming whole. In the forthcoming reflection, we will discuss this destination, the landscape that lies on the other side of consciously traversed pain. What happens when you cease resisting and begin the courageous process of integrating all that you have previously rejected within yourself? True healing is not the mere absence of pain. It is the profound transformation of pain into wisdom, into awareness, into a deeper connection with your authentic self. And that is what awaits your discovery. There arrives a juncture, after considerable inner wrestling and courageous self-facing, when something shifts within you. It's rarely a dramatic cinematic revelation with fireworks and an orchestral score. More often, it's a subtle, yet profoundly transformative change, like an almost imperceptible shift in the wind that alters the entire climate of your inner world. It is the moment when you cease the internal warfare, when you stop resisting, and for the first time, perhaps in your entire life, you begin to experience a sense of wholeness. But what does it truly mean, this notion of becoming whole? It means embracing the totality of your being, including those aspects you may have previously judged, detested, or tried to exile from your conscious self. It signifies an end to the relentless battle with your own emotions, a cessation of the exhausting striving for an unattainable ideal of perfection, a dropping of the carefully constructed masks. It is the profound understanding that your anger, your fear, your sadness, your shame, all those fragmented pieces you've invested a lifetime in trying to hide or eradicate, are legitimate, integral parts of your human experience. And when you choose to integrate them, to welcome them with acceptance rather than continuing to reject them, something akin to a miracle unfolds. The pervasive grip of suffering begins to loosen, to dissolve. Carl Jung termed this lifelong process individuation. This isn't about becoming special or different in a comparative sense, but rather becoming authentically, unapologetically yourself, an undivided individual, real, complete, and true to your own nature. This authenticity doesn't spring from arrogance or pride, but from a deep, compassionate self-acceptance. It's less about finding yourself as if you were a lost object, and more about courageously discovering and uncovering the self that has always been there, beneath the layers of conditioning and societal expectation. Only those who possess the courage to venture into the ruins of their own soul, to sift through the debris of past hurts and unmet needs, and to lovingly rebuild what has been broken, can truly encounter themselves. At this stage of the journey, you realize that you no longer need to conceal your pain, because you understand that your pain does not define you. It was the path, the teacher, not the ultimate destination. You look back upon your life and perceive that every crisis, every setback, every moment of emotional collapse served a profound purpose: to strip away the layers of falsehood, to compel you to relinquish the illusion of control, to force you to shed what was inauthentic, so that you could finally clothe yourself in your own truth. And this truth, this authentic way of being, is not always comfortable. It doesn't shield you from vulnerability. In fact, it often demands it. It requires constant presence, mindful awareness, and conscious choices. Because now that you have glimpsed your shadow, now that you understand the instructive role of pain, now that you have tasted the quiet power of simply being who you are, you can no longer operate on autopilot. You will begin to discern with greater clarity which relationships and situations uplift you and which ones drain your vital energy. You will find yourself naturally ceasing to accept circumstances you once tolerated merely to avoid conflict or disapproval. You will start to say no without the burden of guilt, and perhaps most importantly, you will finally unequivocally say yes to yourself. This internal metamorphosis is often silent, yet its effects are far-reaching and transformative. It's not about manufacturing a new person. It's about ending the long-standing betrayal of the person you have always been at your core. And at this point, you uncover a profound realization that no one could have taught you. You didn't need to be healed or fixed to be worthy of love and belonging. You simply needed to accept yourself, wholly and unconditionally, to cease living from a place of perceived lack. The peace you so desperately sought in the external world was, all along, patiently waiting to be discovered within. But be mindful, for this is often a point where many individuals, having found some relief, may be tempted to settle. The acute pain may have subsided, some destructive patterns may have shifted, and life may begin to flow with greater ease. The allure is to believe the work is done. Yet, there is another vital step, one that Jung considered essential for the completion of the individuation journey, because individual healing in its fullest sense finds its ultimate expression when it transforms into a meaningful contribution to the world around you. What do you do with the light you have cultivated after courageously traversing your own darkness? How do you choose to live now that you are more awake, more aware? This is what we will explore in our final reflection: the conscious decision to live differently, not merely to survive, but to exist with purpose, with heightened awareness, and with a profound sense of responsibility. For now that you have been, in a sense, reborn to yourself, life itself demands more from you. You are here now. You have listened, truly listened. You've allowed these words, these ideas, to penetrate, perhaps even to pierce like a sharp truth. And you remained. That in itself is significant. Many turn away when the inquiry becomes too personal, too uncomfortable. Many choose the familiar slumber of avoidance. But you didn't. You stayed. And because of that conscious choice, you stand at a new threshold, a place of profound potential. Before you lies the choice to slip back into the gravitational pull of old ingrained patterns that have historically dragged you down, or to finally, resolutely take the helm of your own existence. It doesn't matter in the ultimate sense the exact measure of suffering you have endured. It doesn't negate the pain of what was done to you, or the pain you may have inadvertently inflicted. What matters, with an urgency and a clarity that perhaps you haven't felt before, is what you will do with all of this insight, with this newfound awareness starting now. Because the pain you have shouldered for so many years, when met with courage and understanding, can be transmuted into profound strength. The gnawing emptiness you've tried to fill with fleeting distractions and external validations can transform into a fertile silence, a space for genuine self-connection. And the traumas that may have left their indelible marks upon your psyche do not have to remain a life sentence, a prison. They can become the very launching pad for your greatest liberation. But please understand something of critical importance. The awareness you have begun to awaken within yourself comes with a responsibility, a price. Once you have truly seen, you cannot entirely unsee. Ignorance, once dispelled, is no longer a comfortable refuge. You have been called, by your own inner stirring, to live at a different octave of being, a higher level of consciousness. And inhabiting this new level demands unwavering responsibility. It demands that you cease betraying your own truth, that you refuse to settle for anything less than what resonates with your deepest integrity, that you no longer hide behind flimsy excuses or the ghosts of old fears. You don't need to feel 100% ready or completely fearless. No one ever is. What you need is a decision, a clear intention, renewed each day to live consciously. This means looking at yourself with firmness when necessary, with boundless compassion always, and with uncompromising truth. And most importantly, it requires you to act in accordance with your evolving understanding, because knowledge without corresponding action is merely another, more sophisticated form of self-deception. Carl Jung described individuation, this profound, lifelong process of becoming whole, of realizing your unique potential, as a journey, not a final destination. And today, this moment of reflection perhaps marks your first truly conscious, empowered step on that sacred journey. Perhaps, for the very first time, you've grasped on a visceral level that you are not broken, not inherently flawed. You are, and always have been, in process, a work of art perpetually under construction. And the suffering, all of it, was not a punishment. It was a calling, a desperate, loving cry from your soul, urging you to come back home to yourself. The most profound insight was realizing the continuous nature of self-discovery. It challenged my prior understanding of it as a finite process. Articulating this commitment helps anchor it, and sharing it, even subtly, might illuminate another's path. This journey's momentum shouldn't fade here. Thanks for watching. If this resonated, please like this video and subscribe to stay updated. I look forward to continuing this journey with you. Until next time, take care and be present.